Hello, my name is Alexandra Datig, and this is a presentation of Fresno County's problems with out-of-control, doctor-recommended medical marijuana cultivation. Ever seen these signs? Ever heard these arguments? Why is there so much wrong with California's medical marijuana laws? This is my friend Lieutenant Rick Coe, who is with the Fresno County Sheriff's Department. I met Lieutenant Coe in 2010 while campaigning against California Proposition 19, the Regulate, Control, and Tax Cannabis Act, which was defeated. During the campaign, I got to rub elbows with a lot of important people, like U.S. Senator Dianne Feinstein, and I also got to collaborate with former Secretary of Education and U.S. Drug Czar Bill Bennett, which was quite an honor. California's Central Valley feeds 1/3 of our great nation. Almost 10% of the food grown in the Central Valley also contributes to feeding the rest of the world. What does all this have to do with marijuana? You're about to find out. Lieutenant Coe brought me to the airfield to observe the situation in the Central Valley from an aerial point of view. I was joined by a pilot, a tactical flight officer, and an 11-year narcotics agent who specializes in spotting marijuana during a flyover. I soon learned there was a lot of ground to cover. Flying over this field was the type of scenery I was expecting, but only minutes later there was a smell in the air so foul I was glad I didn't eat much of my breakfast. The odor was from the marijuana grow below, which was bordered off and disguised by rows of corn. The smell was outright sickening, and if I had to describe it, it would best compare to rotten lemons, fertilizer, and horse sweat. I couldn't believe my eyes. Those 2 entire fields were all marijuana plants. But there was more. As we flew on, we came across a marijuana grow that was hidden behind a wall. Workers in the grow knew they had a sheriff's helicopter flying over their heads, but went right about their business. Hiding grows behind walls is nothing new in Fresno County. It is one of the ways illegal cultivators hide a grow from the ground. In this case, even a blind man could spot these grows. The odor has a far reach, and the nauseating smell is unmistakable. Lieutenant Coe's eradication unit identified more than 300 marijuana grows in the county. Given that summer is the height of grow season, however, the number will likely increase. At that time, the body count, resulting from conflicts between growers, was 3. We were now flying over the mountainous regions of Squaw Valley, where grows were in plain and open sight all over the area. I was absolutely shocked. On our way back to the city, we flew over agricultural crops, where the tactical flight officer pointed to marijuana grown in organic food crops. These crops would be something you would find at your local farmer's market or organic food store. I later got to see how cultivators do this from the ground. The smell in the air was still ever present. I could have known we were flying over a marijuana grow with my eyes closed. Astonishingly, the grows hidden in the food crops were grown right next to communities. But even here, there were countless homes that had backyard marijuana farms. In this example, the backyard grows were so tall they reached the roof gutters. This is a letter for Operation Mercury, a multi-county, multi-agency task force designed to evict illegal marijuana growers off a landowner's property. Operation Mercury also places landlords on notice who allow marijuana grows on their land. Seeing the situation from the ground gave me a whole new perspective. Growers on this property were hiding marijuana grows in between cucumber and pepper crops. Situations like this one are impossible to deal with in terms of eradication, because getting rid of a marijuana plant means not damaging the rest of the legal food crop. With marijuana interlaced in the lattice, this, according to one of the deputies, is a daunting task. The conditions this marijuana was being processed in for distribution were deplorable. See the flypaper on the right? To quote Calvina Fay, Executive Director of the Drug-Free America Foundation and Save Our Society from Drugs, if anyone in the pharmaceutical industry prepared medicine in this manner, they would be arrested. I really became concerned when I saw boxes like this one that said fresh California-grown vegetables. Later on, when I asked Lieutenant Coe if these boxes were being used to smuggle marijuana, he sent me these pictures of dried marijuana being packaged next to fresh Asian produce. Here is an area where the marijuana cultivated on this property was being dried. Deputies have found drying areas as large as this and bigger. Apparently this grower was cultivating his marijuana with a doctor's recommendation, as he placed marijuana for his personal use in an orange prescription container. While awaiting and harvesting their marijuana, the people living on this property were living in squalor. Trash was all over the area. There were chickens and dogs that, along with the 4 growers, all used the food crops for a bathroom. I wonder if their marijuana doctor ever told them that chicken droppings have very high levels of E. coli and parvovirus. Growing marijuana in these conditions and cultivating it without a sanitary setting can cause aspergillus and other harmful bacteria to colonize in the hot and humid summer months of the Central Valley. Marijuana is a high water content plant and contains aspergillus, a fungus harmful to humans. According to a former lead scientist for the USDA, the corn industry loses 1/3 of its crop every year because of contamination of aspergillus. There are over 200 strains of aspergillus, and the 3 that are most harmful to humans all favor the marijuana plant. When exposed to the right environment, aspergillus has been known to attack the immune system and cause damage to the lungs, sinuses, vision, as well as other areas of the human body. The fungus is highly resistant to treatment, and removal of aspergillus fungus from the human body has to be surgical. Exposure to one of the 3 most dangerous strains of aspergillus, known as fumigatus, can be fatal. You may not believe this, but under California law, doctors are immune from prosecution for recommending marijuana. That is because the Compassionate Use Act of 1996 excluded doctors from liability and gave them immunity should something go wrong. A marijuana doctor stands to make as much as $2 million per year or more just for recommending marijuana. But shouldn't they be held accountable for not taking responsibility for the conditions in which marijuana is being processed? No wonder the growers need a shrine like this one. Given the health risks they are exposed to, they need all the help they can get. Clearly, this situation is way out of control. What we have gotten so used to calling a plant is in fact more like a tree, the kind deputies have to cut down with a chainsaw. The next day, Lieutenant Coe invited me along on a large-scale marijuana eradication. This eradication was so huge, they needed a caterpillar and the dump truck. This is the sunrise on that morning. I remember Lieutenant Coe taking a picture of that sunrise, telling me how much he appreciated nature. But on the other side, there was this enormous forest of marijuana grows. I was again shocked to learn that row upon row of these 3 to 6 foot tall marijuana plants, there were doctor recommendations for 99 plants per row, and more. All in all, there were 27 doctor recommendations found on this site. Some were issued for 99 plants, plus 10 pounds for edibles, and in some cases, the doctor thought the patient was so sick that no exemption was recommended under the Kelly decision. This meant the patient could grow a forest of marijuana under any conditions, and under state law, no one would ever stop him or her. The Kelly decision was a ruling by the California Supreme Court. In 2003, Peter Kelly, a medical marijuana provider, took the state of California to court after the California State Assembly tried to curb the number of plants a medical marijuana provider could grow. In January of 2010, the court ruled that under the California Constitution, Proposition 215, also referred to as the Compassionate Use Act of 1996, took precedence over the California State Assembly because once a ballot measure is enacted by voters, unless specifically stated, a ballot measure cannot be amended, which is the case with California Proposition 215. But what does all this mean? Why 99 plants? Why that number? This might give some perspective. Marijuana cultivation has been made into a business. Even though California voters voted for marijuana to be cultivated, not for profit, Those who saw a way to benefit from California's willingness to help the critically ill decided to break the law anyway, and this is one of the business models they use. This is called the closed-loop system. Through a 99 plant per grower model, this structure generates up to 6,000 patients through as little as 10 growers. Call it whatever you want. Under the law, it's called a pyramid scheme, and that is illegal. Doctors recommend marijuana for 99 plants and more, and they don't even have to sign their own recommendation because under state law, an oral recommendation is all that is needed. This doctor even admits marijuana causes dependency, something marijuana users often deny. At this location, there was no regulatory oversight. No one was required to check what pesticides were being used and whether they were harmful to humans. They were already trying to harvest their pot, but thankfully the sheriff intervened. The smell from the ground was hard to stand. Eradicated marijuana gave off a whole new odor, and being around it for 2 days literally made me lose my sense of smell for 3 days. Piles of cut-down marijuana trees were everywhere, and at the end of each row there was a doctor's recommendation. It was hard for me to understand how we could allow for things to get this far. How did California become the nation's largest supplier of marijuana when trafficking marijuana across state lines is illegal both under state and federal law? Just like the other site I visited the day before, here too people were living in tents, leaving trash and empty beer bottles all over the place, while using the crops and other areas for a bathroom. This is a bathroom area, and it is also an area where they prepare a patient's medicine. See the doctor's recommendations nailed to the 2 posts? These doctors should trade in their white lab coats for a pair of handcuffs. They should be in jail. There I am, and behind me, row upon row of eradicated marijuana. See the overhang bathroom medical preparation area with the doctor's recommendations behind me? So, ever wonder what's in your medical marijuana? Much less where it comes from? On that day, this so-called medicine went to the right place, the Drug Enforcement dump site. That was an eye-opening journey, and I am so glad Lieutenant Coe invited me to ride along. Joining his boss, Sheriff Margaret Mims, and the local leaders, he was able to shut down marijuana dispensaries in his county. Let's hope it stays that way. I wonder if people who go out and protest really understand what is happening in California. I hope I give them something to think about. One thing's for sure, the people who voted to legalize medical marijuana had no idea what they signed up for. Maybe that's why over 200 municipalities out of 478 cities and 58 counties have banned marijuana dispensaries. The way marijuana is being handled in the state of California is cause for the California Department of Health and Safety to shut these operations down. Hopefully, we can get our leaders to realize that medical marijuana is nothing but a scam and an illness waiting to happen. Wake up, California. It's time to set the record straight.